Okay. It has been quite a while since I've posted one of these, partially from just being busy, but also I like to sit with every script and make sure it's like really ready to post it. And I felt like I had more to say than the script that I had originally written. And I just wanted to live, like basically understand more so of what I was trying to say before I posted it publicly for the world to make it seem like I got this all figured out or I have like an explanation to this certain topic I'm talking about. But a few months ago, a family friend of ours who I call my uncle died unexpectedly. And this really refocused and shifted my whole mindset as far as not to be grim, basically, but it could be you that could die unexpectedly any day from now, which one gives me an appreciation to live every day, like it's the most of it, but also it lights kind of a fire under you to have that urgency. And before I get too deep into it, I know y'all seen the title, but I want to define what urgency is. And urgency is basically the quality or condition of being urgent, insistent, and pressing importance. I will also add that you need to have a sense of gratitude as well. For me, every time I feel a sense of urgency, there's always an underlying emotion of just being thankful that you can do what you're doing, especially musically. For me, gratitude looks like and just saying it in my head or maybe even out loud, Lord, thank you for giving me this gift and allowing me to share my talent with and for others and to use it for your glory. I really think gratitude and urgency work hand in hand because you'll never know when God will call you home. I think my uncle's death really gave a perspective shift, but also just called to like refocus refocus myself. I was getting lazy, kind of just going through life and sometimes not attacking the day to its fullest. And still sometimes not attacking its day to its fullest. However, I feel like when this shift and you make a conscious decision, there's no longer like a tomorrow. There's no waiting for next week or getting complacent, generally speaking, of course. Some things are truly just out of our hand and we have to wait for time. But I think just really starting to get that like perspective on life, we really have a more productive day. And I think you can maybe start in one area of your life. Once you start with one area of life, it moves on to the other areas of life. And you start to really make this like a habit and make this just who you are. My friends have this thing we call like attacking the day. And I mentioned it a little earlier. But every day we'll reconvene and debrief on how we've been attacking these past few days just to see where everybody's head is at and how they're doing. This gives us a chance to compare and see if we're doing enough to keep us in check to make sure we're still pushing and setting the standard high or keeping the standard high, I should say. And I think everybody should have something like that where you're held accountable and just have people that are gonna push you. And as I have all these videos, they have stories with them. And it's also another reason as to why I was so prolonged in posting this and recording this even was because the story was still playing out. And to be honest, it's still kind of playing out, but I think I'm at a place where I can speak more educated and actually have a position to stand on from this point. Basically, this alto saxophone and soprano saxophone player, Logan Richardson, came to do a workshop with us. I got called by Professor Walter Smith, who's the woodwind chair at Berkeley, and he asked me if I wanted to do it. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I didn't know who he was at the time, but you never know what opportunities can come out of anything. So if I'm available, I'm going to say yes. So I was available. I said yes, and I was going to just do the best I could. I got there not really knowing what to expect, but I was already a little nervous because it was just me and him, saxophone and drums, just playing. And I was not really sure what was going to come from that. And I felt like it was just going to be like a pick on me session type of thing. But obviously, I don't know who this guy is. I'm just kind of when you're nervous, you go through all these different possibilities that probably aren't even true. And so I get there, I'm starting to set up, and this guy, a different guy, comes up to me while I'm setting up, and it's just like, hey, like I've seen you on Instagram. are you that guy? And I'm like, yeah, I'm that guy. He's like, bro, you sound so good, all this stuff and stuff. And so now I'm kind of in my head because Logan is hearing all of this from the guy and hearing me, and I'm thinking he's making all these assumptions like, oh, he thinks he's, this guy, like, oh, he's getting notoriety or whatever. We'll see how he really plays type of thing. And now I felt like I had a certain standard to uphold to make sure how much the guy was talking well of me. Now I need to show Logan like it means something and it's true. And all these things that he probably never even was worried about, or even maybe he didn't even hear the conversation because he was also setting up. So, anyways, I'm playing and he's, giving me stuff to work on, but it's okay. Like I'm getting through it and I'm just trying to, really get something out of this masterclass. And he points out something really significant. He asked me to take a drum solo, play ahead of whatever tune I wanted. And it should be like clear what tune I'm playing. And then play, a solo over a few, choruses and then take it out. And so I proceed to do that, or what I thought I was going to do. I proceeded to do that. I start to do it and I'm playing the song. I forget what song I played. I think it was like All the Things You Are or something. But I'm playing, I get in the middle of like two choruses and he stops me. Now, this is the first time like something like this has ever been brought up because nobody ever mentioned this beforehand. But he says, when you lifted your head up, the tone in your playing significantly like changed. And I was so shocked by that because I was like, nobody's ever, mentioned that. And I think he really caught on to the autopilot playing that I sometimes get into. And I think we all get into that. But he was the one that actually voiced it and made me aware of, something like this. And I'm very like taken aback because I'm not that I'm upset or anything. I'm really like just shocked that that would be the thing that makes my tone drop. And I'm like, he's asking me all these questions like, what were you thinking like when you lifted your head down versus when you lifted your head up? And I just couldn't tell him. And I didn't know, like, I guess I was just on autopilot and I didn't know how to answer the question. So that in turn made me, I feel like even now, for the next few months, I have been just trying to figure out this autopilot thing of why do I go on autopilot and why did my tone drop when I'm leaning my head? Because I can do all that as long as the tone is there, but why wasn't the tone there was basically the question that I'm trying to get to in my practice time. I think that is a big part of urgency, the tone and just the intention and clarity. Because when you're on autopilot, you're not really thinking, you're just playing, you're just going through the motions. And to be urgent, you can't be on autopilot. You have to be like locked into the situation of the moment. And so this kind of brought me back as I was looking back on the situation the next few days. Because, well, first off, that masterclass was first off amazing for me, really shifted, the way I thought. And also it allowed me to really like focus on myself and like my playing, really like get deep into why I'm doing this and what am I doing, and I really had to reflect for like a few weeks, just sitting out the window and just thinking like, man, like what's going on? And not even like in an upset state or anything, just literally just trying to make a list of all the things that I'm thinking of musically or life really, and just like what's going on. And that brought me also back to my other professor, the other two professors really, Vicente Archer and Tia Fuller, and they both mentioned this forward momentum or just urgency and point to my sound that I was lacking. And to me, when it was first brought up to me, it was a very like vague, ambiguous sounding, type of thing. But I knew they were correct in what they were saying because obviously they're doing something that I would like to do. So I was getting frustrated and not really understanding what they meant because the way they were going about describing it was not clear to me. And that masterclass really kind of put it into perspective, the autopilot. Like maybe that's it. And if I can figure that out, that will get me one step closer to this urgency that they're saying I'm lacking. So anyways, I'm working on that for the, rest of the semester. And I don't really know how to tell if I'm getting better at this. So I'm kind of just practicing and just hoping one of these days somebody will notice and be like, yeah, like you got the urgency or whatever. But I also didn't want to just ask somebody because it seemed impatient in a way because I felt like if I had the urgency, then all these gigs would come that I feel like I wanted or I should have. And that's actually a very arrogant and selfish mindset. But, anyways, I didn't ask and I just kind of worked on myself until this ensemble with this professor I have now, Professor Darren Barrett. And he did something that was very helpful for me. And this is in the midst of me learning how to be like okay with being alone because now all my friends aren't at this campus and they're like studying abroad. So it's less of my friends and more time to myself. And I've never really had this much time to myself. So I'm trying to understand how I work alone and what that means for me moving forward, as it will kind of be like this for the rest of my life. And I'll have to be okay with that. And I'm learning how to be okay with that. And so he mentioned urgency again. And I'm like, dang, like all this work that I thought I've been doing, I guess it hasn't worked. Like it's not working. What do I need to do? And he did a few exercises, but he also brought up my Instagram and was basically saying like, why don't you play like this in person? Which made me feel like, oh, I play with urgency on Instagram. So I just need to figure out why on Instagram I can play with urgency and not in person. But then thinking about it later, I realized that all those videos are live. Like they're not one-off takes or like full-fledged, like written out transcriptions and recordings or any planned out things. Like they're pretty much spur of the moment, like with a live band or just like at a show, things that can't like be replicated or like staged in a way. And I got really upset because I couldn't understand or I couldn't figure out how he wanted me to fix this issue. And he was getting upset because he didn't know how to explain how to fix the issue. So I felt like we were both upset in a way. And that left me to once again reflect. So I texted a few musicians this time to finally try and figure this out because I'm like, I'm upset and I'm tired of feeling like this isn't working and this isn't being fixed. Unfortunately, the answers I got back did not really answer the question the way I thought they were going to. And that might be possibly because of the way I asked the question, but that might have been the best thing because it made me figure it out on my own. What I can say now, with also coming back to the ensemble with him saying, yes, this is what I want, like this is what I've been talking about. And also, I talked to my professor Vicente Archer again about the thing, and he was also backing me up in what I was explaining to him as to what I found and what urgency is musically. What I can say is you need to be intentional and clear with every note that you're trying to play, and the forward momentum will come because of the intention that drives the music forward. If you don't have any intention, it's just going to feel autopilot going through the motions. This could be a whatever thing. You really have to practice that because I felt like, first off, I was not really in the practice room that much. I was just playing. And once I got back into the practice room and really worked on my hands, making sure those are clean and crisp, that made the intention as to what I was trying to do actually come out on the drums because I had practiced it and it's like clean. Yeah, it's just clean. And so now the urgency can be there because the intention is there. I feel like that's what's holding a lot of musicians back because nobody, first off, knows that they have an issue of urgency, but also they don't even know how to fix it. And I feel like this might be a way to fix it. I don't know if it's the way to fix it, but I think it is a way to fix it. And it seems like it's working. Now, have I gotten a certain gig from, artist, a notable artist yet? No. But I can see that the teachers that have pointed it out are saying that there's a change and there's a difference. And I feel a difference, actually, because when they were explaining it to me, I felt like there was no difference in the way I was playing. It was just louder and faster. But now I really actually hear the difference. And it might sound to the layman indistinguishable, but as a musician, I can definitely tell it's a big difference. And it sets a lot of musicians apart because one musician can play a groove and a pro can play a groove and it sound different just because of how they play it and why they play it. So I guess I say all that to say you need urgency. And the urgency is really intention and attentiveness. You have to be listening and you have to want to listen. You have to like the music you're playing because it's really hard to be intentional with some trash music. I think the easiest thing to start off with is start with a genre you really like to play and really get that intention and then start moving to other genres and then move outside of music and really just make your life more intentional. That's really all I have on this topic. Yeah, ask yourself this question: where is your urgency? Have a great day and move with purpose.